Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance. What are some gamification techniques that you think aren't used enough in a learning context? So let's start with that. Like, what things are being underutilized out there?
I think one of the most interesting ones, and again, something we've been talking about a lot, is failure as a game mechanic. Because commercial games, often failure is a really important part of the experience. You're supposed to be feeling like you're mastering something, and in order to feel like that, you have to be able to get it wrong at first. And actually, a lot of the games we've been talking about, allowing you to get something wrong is a big part of what makes them compelling, because things go badly at first. You try something else, you get to experiment, you get to fail in that safe environment, try something different. And eventually you feel empowered by the experience of learning it, and also that repetition of trying different things really helps it sink in. But learning games previously, I would say, have been very nervous about letting people fail. It can be a bit of a hard sell, right? To say, somebody might have to play this game 2 or 3 times before they actually are able to master it, are able to get that sort of equivalent of the passing score, and it ticks off nicely in the learning management system and everyone's happy. But I think people are getting a little bit more confident with that now, because people can see how powerful it can be.
Well, absolutely. I can also see that it's unlocking your childlike element. You know, when you're a child, you're not sitting there going, "Oh, if I don't do it one time, I'm a failure." You try something, you experiment, you just keep going there. So that's a brilliant mechanic, no doubt on that end. So I'm also curious from your end, what type of things you think have been, I guess, to say charitably, overused, like from a game mechanic. What things are you like, okay, my eyes are rolling when this is what they're calling gamification? Curious on that end.
For me, it's points, but in a very particular sense of when a player scores points for answering questions, and the points really only serve to just be a tally of how many questions they've answered correctly. I think the points in any game have to mean something, whether it's something that the player can then use their points to buy later on. So if I scored 10 points, maybe I can spend those 10 points in some fashion to make my game better later on. But there has to be a context for it. If I'm answering questions in a quiz and I'm getting some points and they're just called points and I get 100 every time, it really means nothing to me. And also another in that category would be badges. I think that badges can have their place, but again, if I get a badge in a game for just doing something that I have to do anyway, like finishing the quiz, that really doesn't mean a lot to me. A badge is supposed to be something that it shows that I've done something unique, and it shows that I've done something impressive. Maybe you could get away with if I finish the quiz with 100%, and it's a really tough quiz, then maybe that badge is okay. But yeah, it's points and badges. And before I hand it back over, if I could just pick up on what Emma said about failure.
Sure.
I totally agree with everything you said. Failure is like one of the most powerful learning tools that we have, and what we can do to enable the use of failure in learning games is make it really easy to start playing again. So if I've been playing a game for a few minutes and then I get to a point at which I've failed, how can we design that game in an intelligent way so that the player finds it really easy to pick back up, and use what they've learned through failure to benefit them again.
That's what you're reminding me of. One of my favorite movies that didn't make it huge, but it is really cool. I think it was The Day After Tomorrow with Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise. Remember that?
Yes.
What you're saying is, I feel like that was the deal, right? Is for those that haven't seen it, totally check it out. There's not a commission from us on that. But the point is, Tom Cruise, his character has been gifted powers where he can continue to, he gets killed and the next day he snaps back and he gets better and better and better, right? So that's kind of that.
I think the creative pitch for that movie was Groundhog Day with Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah, and a few more guns.
You're right.
And guns.
Yes, let's add some guns and Emily Blunt. I mean, that's a winner any day, right? And let's face it. Okay, so but what's like a real world example of that you like? So I mean that same concept, but it's brought up. So give us an example that people could actually check out.
Emma, have you got a favorite?
Well, there's actually a whole genre of games that kind of makes that its speciality, and there's so many of them. So, I mean, there was one I played recently called Loop Hero, which made a real thing of that, where the whole concept of the game is you're just going round and round the same loop. You can never leave it. But as you fail and as things go wrong, you basically see how far you can get and how many times you can get round. And as you fail, not only do you kind of get to know techniques, not only does your mastery improve, but actually with what Rich was saying about points, you can earn points or currency, which you can spend on things that make you more powerful. And so you've always got a motivation to go back in. And it's also designed, I think this is quite an important part of it as well, so that each attempt only takes a very, very short amount of time, 10 minutes max, probably quite a lot less. And I think that also really helps motivate you to think, I'm just going to go in for one more turn. But yeah, I think there's a whole range of games that do that really well in that genre.
So, as practitioners, have you had a chance to apply this yet? I mean, this is that perfect idea of here's some insight and then action. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, very recently, I made a game for a client where the player has to manage a set of restaurants, and they have to effectively, it's a management simulation type of game. They've got to choose the best recommendations to make for each type of restaurant. They have to look at data, and they have to make good decisions about how to engage with the stakeholders and what that restaurant should change to become more profitable. But the tricky thing is that even with your best intentions in that game, sometimes a stakeholder might not like your suggestion, and sometimes you might lose track of one of those restaurants and it might go out of business. And so it's actually a really tough game. It's designed to be really challenging. And it's designed in mind that a player is likely to fail the first time or even the second time they play through. So but our client really liked that because they were saying, you know what, this job that we're emulating in this game is really tough. And if we can show people before they start this job how tough it is, they'll get an idea that, you know what, I really need to look after these stakeholders, and I really need to keep my eye on this and this and this. So I think there's a real virtue in having games be difficult, allowing people to fail, and showing them in that safe environment, which is why we love games, because they're a safe place to fail. All the different things that they need to gain that mastery of.
What that kind of game lets you do as well is you can make something much more realistic, because, for that kind of audience with the decisions they're going to be making, these aren't neat, closed problems with one solution where you just have to get the right answer. They're very open-ended problems, and a big part of that kind of job is having the creativity and the the kind of ability to think outside the box to be able to solve those. And that kind of game can actually model that, and that game does model that. There's often more than one solution to a problem. There's more than one way to approach something, and encouraging people to try a game more than once and to be able to fail and learn from it also lets you do that.
What you two are describing is, if someone contrasts that to just, a typical onboarding of here's a PowerPoint deck and take this quiz. I mean, you're talking about a next level learning experience right there. I can just see that, thinking about the whole Bloom's taxonomy, and, you're moving people up into analysis and synthesis and reflection and all that. You're firing at that higher level through gamification. And if I could give you a golf clap here, I will. I'll try not to blow out the microphone, but that is so so exciting there. You just everything you're saying about leveraging failure as a game mechanic and embracing it versus trying to pander and say, okay, get one chance. Here's a multiple choice question. You get one chance and, lob them the easy answer. It's so awesome on that.
The Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.